Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending our policy meeting for March the 7th, 2024. Um, Now, we just want to do some housekeeping, folks, so that make sure that if you have any questions, please put your questions in the Q&A. I'll be monitoring that as well as Mr. Justin. Thank you so much for your support. And I am going to turn it over now to Dr. B. Coates.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, although the agenda does say Danielle Seward, I am not Danielle. I am Eric B. Coates, and I will be sharing information regarding the uniform survey and draft policies review. We do wish Danielle a speedy recovery, and then once I go over this information, we will turn it back over to Ms. Hopkins. I would just ask if everyone would allow me to go through the presentation first, and then we can try to address any questions that you may have. Justin, if you would please put the link to the presentation in the chat, that would be helpful if it's not already there. But I first want to start off with, I want to click on this link, the quantitative data analysis. And so most of you know, we did have students as well as families complete the survey. We had 631 responses, as you can see outlined here by school. I'm just going to move this bar for a quick second, excuse me. Okay. And then some of the questions are listed, or the questions are listed here. And so, talks about whether or not the policy would create a financial hardship for your family. We've highlighted the response, the greatest number of responses that you'll see. So you'll see no, 481, 77%. And that's how you would read all of the questions that I'm going to highlight. Secondly, we talk about, do you believe there will be benefits from having an elementary and middle school uniform policy, or who it would benefit, excuse me. In this answer, it's 35% the community, followed by 30% with students. Next question talks about, I like the elementary school uniform policy, 34% strongly agree. I like the middle school uniform policy, 31% strongly, no preference. I'm sorry, 31% no preference. But you'll see in line 44 here, you have 30% that strongly agree. So just wanted to point that out. So when you look at question 5, the school district should change the elementary uniform policy to allow students to wear what they want within clearly specified parameters. Strongly disagree at 31%. I will share with you that when you look at these, this data, the parents' data is very different than the responses that we receive from the students. Question 6 speaks to the school district changing the middle school uniform dress code to allow students to wear what they want. Strongly disagree at 29%. No preference at 24%. Next question was, I think it matters what color shirts. I think it matters what color shirts children wear in school. 28% no preference. Next question, I think it matters what color bottoms children wear in school. Really no preference. Question 9, having school uniforms improves the learning environment. 28% strongly agree. A school uniform promotes school spirit and pride. 29%. And again, these results were from the parent uniform survey results. So if I go to the student uniform survey results, looking at, again, the same questions, and when you look at the distribution, you have elementary students, 40% response, 65% response at the middle school level, and 25% response rate at the high school level. So when you talk about, I like the uniform policy at my school, this is high school, you have 31% stating that they strongly disagree. At the elementary level, at the middle school level, 42% strongly disagree, and at the high school level, 23% strongly disagree. Elementary question, we should stop having uniforms. We should have new rules for what we could wear. And then at the middle school, their question was, instead of a uniform, we should have a dress code. The dress code would tell us what kinds of clothes we could wear to school. So again, at the elementary level for that question, we should stop having uniforms. Strongly agree at 39%. At the middle school, we should have a dress code. Strongly agree at 35%. The color of our uniform is important. Strongly disagree. And that was at the elementary and at the middle school level at 22 and 33% respectively. Uniforms help me learn. Strongly disagree. 51% at the elementary level, 62% at the middle, and 36% at the high school level. Uniforms make me proud of my school. 30% strongly disagree at the elementary level, and 50% strongly disagree at the middle school level. So that first link in the presentation specifically spoke to our results from the actual, survey itself. So I'm going to stop share there for a moment, and then I want to go to the actual presentation itself, because under here you will see some additional comments that were provided. Excuse me one second, let me get back to my Zoom. I'm on a different computer, so I'm not as fast as I usually am on my Mac. I apologize. Student and parent survey. So we did have some open-ended responses. While I will not go through all of them, I think they really relate to, for the most part, some of the, or align to, I should say, the results that you actually see in the quantitative survey results. We also took all of this information into account as you talked about, or as we looked at making some edits to the actual policy. So you'll see some common themes here from the elementary schools. You'll see some middle school common themes. And then I believe we have some high school common themes as well. So again, as we looked at the actual answers to the survey and the open-ended questions, that helped us to come up with, if you will, some modifications that we would make to the actual policy itself. And so that's what I would like to go to next as a part of our discussion tonight. Excuse me, please. And so what you will find is we basically have three distinct policies. One is for high school, one is for elementary, and one is for middle. And so when we look at the overall changes, what we have done for the most part is that we have removed gendered language. We've clarified expectations regarding what is allowed and prohibited. The middle school policy title was changed from uniform dress code to dress code for clarity. We also provided clarity about elementary and middle school shirt colors, and we did add a delegation of authority section to each policy. So I'm going to go to start with number one, the Penwood High School dress code policy. So what you will see here basically in the blue is where we have added some language. And it's just around basically upholding a standard for appropriate dress and grooming in an academic setting. When we talked about the authority here, we did have to make this change to ensure that the Penwood Ninth Grade Academy was included. And then in our guidelines, it talks about, for the health and safety reasons, it says shoes must be worn at all times in school and on school property. And it talks about what students are permitted to wear. And then we go further to talk about what items are not actually permitted. And then we try to highlight to clarify expectations. This is where we're talking about here, what is not permitted. So that's what we try to provide clarity on in this particular section. And a lot of the updated wording aligns directly with the suggestions that were actually made in the or from the survey itself. So for example, number 2, it talks about, pants are to be worn at the natural waistline. What is not permitted to wear is visible underwear. We talk about outfits, skirts, shorts, the way in which they should be worn, if you will. So this is some of the clarification that we provided. We talked about short shorts, bike shorts that expose the posterior. That's number 7. Excuse me, that's something that's not permitted. So again, trying to provide clarity around what items would not be permitted in our schools. And this process follows in each one of the actual policies themselves. And then we have here a statement on delegation of authority and where that delegation of authority would reside. And it just speaks to that the superintendent or their designee has the authority to implement this policy. So that is, I believe that was the middle school level. No, that was the high school. I apologize. So I'm going to go back for a second and I'll just provide some examples at the elementary level. And again, the wording is very much the same in each one of these policies. So when you look at the elementary item, the first section is basically the same where we're talking about here upholding a standard for appropriate dress and grooming in an academic setting. We highlighted at the beginning of what school year, again, this would be 24-25. We talk about what the board of directors believes, and this is not, has not changed. And then again, we talk about the actual school uniform policy that will be put into place at the middle school level. So here we struck out the piece about gendered language. So you'll see that that's struck through there. And again, we made sure that we were clear in what was actually going to be permitted in this particular example. And then in this instance, we did highlight under delegation of authority, in addition to the superintendent or their designee will be able to implement this, we did say that here the superintendent or their designee may choose a single color or multiple colors for tops to promote cohesiveness in school identity. The colors must be chosen with the input of school community stakeholders such as students, parents, guardians, and school staff. So that's what we have for the elementary. And I'm going to now go to, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the middle school. And again, at the middle school, we talked about taking out uniform up here at the top. It is a dress code. So you'll see that the word uniform is struck through there. First 2 paragraphs are, again, basically the same, upholding a standard for appropriate dress and grooming in an academic setting. Talks about what the board believes, the guidelines being for the 24-25 school year. And then it takes out the gendered language, and here it talks about the actual guidelines at the middle school level.
Dr. Becoats, first paragraph, last line, it has the elementary, it should have 7-8.
First paragraph, last line, right here. Got it.
Thank you. I'm very appreciative of removing the gendered language.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hoff. And so that's, that was our approach to addressing the feedback, and board members as well as attendees. This is what you would see. And, we now are at a place where we can do one of two things. We could share this information more publicly one more time before we actually put it on the agenda for first reading. But Ms. Hopkins, I'm going to defer to you for that. I know that we've had lots of discussion. I believe we conducted this survey 2 times because there was some feedback that, we just needed to have more feedback and input. And so that's what we did. So at this point, if there are questions or additional comments from board members, I'll definitely take them and we'll proceed accordingly.
Thank you, Dr. B. Coates, and thank you for this information. And I know Ms. Seward was working diligently on this topic. And so I know she's not here and not present, but I just wanted to just offer how much I'm very appreciative of her follow up as well as follow through with this topic. Right now, I don't see any questions. I don't see any comments thus far. So I'm going to take it to the board first. Is there any questions or any comments from the board of directors that are here this evening?
No questions, just appreciation. It still has to go through the 2 readings, so all this information could be shared, and they would have 2 months anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Just one person.
Now I
Madam
have
Chair.
Ms. Val, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Madam Chair, I'm just grateful that we have gotten this policy to the place that we can have the reading. So thank you and the committee for the work.
Absolutely. Mrs. Ivory, how about you? Did you have anything that you wanted to say?
No, I would just echo Ms. Valerie and Jennifer. Just thank you for following through with the process and giving people an opportunity, a second chance to give their input. So I do not have any questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate the feedback. Dr. Bicos, now I have to say for me, I do. On the first slide regarding the questionnaire, you talked about this high school students part in this, their reply to this, and they feel that they're strongly disagreeing about having a uniform, or are they just strongly disagreeing about having a policy, period? That's what I didn't understand.
It was the uniform.
Got it. Okay. And then help me to navigate and process in this old brain of mine.
Okay.
I know what we're trying to establish in the district is to have where our principals are in more of control of their own schools and delegating what they want for their own schools. So when we come to these policies, and how are we sorry, lost words. How are we? It's not coming to me. How enforce? I want to use the word enforce because I can't, it's not coming to me. How do we enforce these codes and these things if the delegation or the authority comes from the superintendent? I hope I'm making sense, and I apologize to y'all about my words.
No problem. So in my mind, this is our policy and this is our guide, right? And so I think that with all of these, you have to take some level of subjectivity into how you implement and how you enforce this in your school building. I think one of the statements in the policy speaks to the fact that we want to make sure that we have an environment that's conducive to learning. I'll just put it in those terms. And so if a principal feels, and I believe a principal should have this ability, feels as though that if a student is doing something that prohibits or diminishes that, then action can be taken. But I don't believe that we should make it hard for a student to get their education if they're not following these guidelines. So I think there should be, okay, hey, we're going to give you we've had a conversation with you, you know, we may have to have a conversation with your parents. But at some point, we do want people and families to abide by the policy that the board has put into place. So that's, I guess that would be my response. I don't believe it's a all or nothing, because you never know the situation that a family may be going through or experiencing. I also
Mhm.
think that there are ways in which we can help, in terms of, in some places, you may have a uniform room or a uniform closet or a dress code closet, whatever you want to call it. I shouldn't say uniform because it's not a uniform, but there may be ways in which we can help those families who may just be having some trouble in that arena. So that's why I say it's not an all or nothing. And I'm not sure if that answers your question, Ms. Hopkins, but
Mhm.
I think that's what you were getting at.
Yeah, I was. And I thank you for reading my mind. I appreciate it. I love the support that I get. So thank you. Yeah, that's
No problem.
exactly. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I'm gonna check one more time to see if there
And
is.
I don't
I don't
see it
see
either.
anything. Okay. And yep, I don't see anything. So
Okay.
if no one has any questions, comments.
So I just want to make sure, Ms. Hopkins, I'm clear. We are putting this on this board agenda for the month of March as first reading,
As
correct?
first reading, correct.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make
Correct.
sure that was clear.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All righty.
All right. Going once, going twice. I don't want to rush anybody. Okay. Well, you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you again for attending policy meeting for March the 7th. And yes, Dr. Bicos, that's going on the first reading for the board meeting. Okay, thank you all, and
Thank
everybody
you.
have a great night.
Have a great evening.